poetry, humorous, and serious. Oh my! With all of the speech materials out there, it's hard to know where to start looking. Let's talk about picking pieces. Hello, oral interpreters. Today we're going to be talking about the different categories of oral interpretation, their specific rules, and how to find good pieces. In oral interpretation, there are a total of 7 categories, 5 of which are solo categories. These are poetry, humorous, serious prose, non-original oratory, and storytelling. The remaining 2 categories are duet, which has 2 performers, and reader's theater, which has 3 or more performers. All categories in oral interpretation have a time limit of 10 minutes max, except for storytelling, and no categories have a time minimum. Typically, the sweet spot for piece length is 7 to 9 minutes. Poetry is right what it says on the tin. In this category, students perform a collection of poetry pieces that usually have a cohesive story or theme. Humorous and serious prose are also pretty self-explanatory. Humorous pieces are comedic, and serious prose are dramatic or tragic. Non-original oratory is a category where students perform speeches. However, these speeches cannot be written by the students themselves. Storytelling looks a bit different from the other solo categories. It is the only category where pieces must be memorized, and the time limit is a maximum of 5 minutes as opposed to 10. There is a new theme for storytelling every year. Some of the past themes in South Dakota have included thriller, Grimm's fairy tales, and heroism. The theme for 2021 is hope. Duet and reader's theater pieces can be of any genre. However, they are usually either humorous or serious. 2 rules specific to duet and reader's theater is that students performing a piece together cannot make direct eye contact or physical contact at any part of the piece except for during the introduction. As a side note, no singing is allowed in any category. However, sound effects are permitted, which includes humming and vocal percussion. So once you know what category you want to do, or even if you don't, where do you start looking for good pieces? There are websites and resource pages that, with a subscription, coaches can use to find pieces specifically written for oral interp. However, not every school has a budget for this, so it is good to explore alternative options. To start off, find out if your school has a library of pieces used in previous years. In some cases, this could be several shelves of pieces in a closet. In other cases, this could just be one box of pieces, like it was at my old middle school. Coaches, if your school doesn't have a piece library, be sure to start one by compiling pieces your students use and other potential pieces. Down the line, future students and coaches will thank you for this. Now, let's get into the specifics of where to find good pieces for each category. For poetry books are fantastic because they often have themes within them. Thus, it makes it very easy to peruse the poems and select which ones you want to compile together. Novels can often make great humorous or serious pieces. However, it can be time-consuming to trim them down. Thus, junior high and young adult novels are a great place to start if you decide to go this route. They have a more manageable length, and the content is often relatable to other students. Some good sources for non-original oratory include State of the Union addresses, autobiographies, acceptance and graduation speeches, TED Talks, and more. Finding pieces for storytelling will heavily depend on that year's theme. Folk tales and first-hand testimonies are great, but make sure whichever piece you pick is captivating to tell. In storytelling, the focus is much more on facial expressions and vocal inflections. Large physical movements are somewhat discouraged in storytelling. Some students even decide to give their piece while sitting on a chair. Duet pieces can come from a variety of places: novels, plays, and pieces specifically published for the duet category. The same applies to reader's theater. However, this category has a little more creative wiggle room. Schools are permitted to write their own reader's theater if they so choose. Also, I have seen reader's theaters use transcripts of movies and videos in the past. This is permitted, provided that the team gives the proper credits. Some examples of what I've seen are scenes from the movie Mean Girls, selections from a Saturday Night Live episode, and even a rendition of Monty Python's Spanish Inquisition sketch. Students, if you don't know what that is, please go check it out. Before I finish up, I'd like to share 3 final tips with you about picking and preparing excellent pieces. Number 1, piece cutting. When cutting pieces from a novel, a good way to go about it is to use tabs or bookmarks to mark certain sections as you read. Marking it up will make it much easier to cut later. Some books translate well into a piece that gives you an overview of the entire storyline. Other books not so much. In cases like these, the best option is to pick a small selection of the book and then give your audience the context they need in your introduction. This brings us to tip number 2. Handling intros. Typically, it's good to start your performance by giving your audience a preview of the piece that you will perform later, or by giving the first paragraph or two of the piece, then pausing, giving the intro, and continuing on. This format is widely used because it's a great way to hook your audience into the story or speech you are about to give them. Last but not least, tip number 3, strong piece selection. Believe it or not, the piece you pick can affect how you rank in competitions. My recommendation in finding a strong piece is picking one that you can make a personal connection to. If you are passionate about the subject of your piece, or if it gets you excited, you are much more likely to perform it well. Performers are always more engaging if they love their piece and the audience can tell. Now that I've given you the tools you need, it's time to go out and start looking for your oral interp piece. I wish you all the best of luck in the hunting for your pieces. Salutations, and happy oral interping!